Hey everybody, welcome. It is Douglas here. I am so excited for you to join this workshop. It's going to be super fun. We are going to hop into creating a social media ideation, but really mostly a scheduling tool today. It's going to be really fun. It's going to be action-packed, and it's going to leave you with some basics for the tool that we use at our agency, Razor. So just first of all, giving you a little introduction to that. We are an agency that works with clients to build advanced automations that streamline their workflow. It's incredibly fun, and it's a great tool once you get started with it. And the basics are quick to learn. The extendability is super powerful. So what we're going to do first of all is I'll tell you about these other workshops that we have, which you can find on our website at the top on workshops, razor.co. Industry news report using ChatGPT and Google Spreadsheets, automating blogs and social media ideas. That's a great complement to this one. So this is going to be less about the ideas and more about the scheduling. Super fun one, creating custom AI images. You don't even need a paid ChatGPT subscription, but you do need a little bit of money on your account. Different. I'll talk about that in a little bit. And then a really useful one of our biggest sales for our agency is actually these highly customized meeting reports. If you get transcripts from various recording tools, you can create very customized follow-ups. So you can find those all at razor.co and also learn a little bit more about what we do. All right, so what are we going to be doing today? We are going to be building a scheduling tool that comes from a form. And I found this great new platform called OpenForm. I was using Jotform before for my workshops, but I ran out of free forms, and so I did some research. I love OpenForm, and it's unlimited free forms for this kind of thing, so you can't beat that. Okay, and this form is going to look like this. We're going to have a title, an introduction to a blog post. In this case, we're going to be giving our opinion on a piece of news related to our industry. And this is going to then have the article URL, the article itself, what platform we want it to go out, and then the scheduling. What's cool about this and why this is important is, first of all, it's going to allow us to enter some human inputs, which are important when we're using AI and automations to stay human, obviously. But also the annoyance of dealing with scheduling tools, of scheduling for different platforms, like obviously LinkedIn, Facebook, X, they all have different formats. Some are longer, some are shorter, right? And there's any other platforms that you want, but we're going to just start with these just to show you, because I think X and Facebook, obviously very different. And so rather than have to worry about tailoring each for different platforms, this is going to be all part of the AI automation. So let's talk about the automation. First, I'll just show you the website that we're going to use, or the tool we're going to use is called make.com. This is what we use for all of our agency stuff. It's basically what they call, like a Zapier, the duct tape of the internet. And by that, it connects systems. So you can look at this. It's really, and in fact, it's an inspiring place to start. This is actually about a third the price of Zapier, or at least half too, and I like the interface better. You'll see it's pretty fun to use. But you can go in here as a project manager. You could look up Trello, and let's just use that as an example. You can come in here and start to think about, what are the trigger actions? Well, the actions are what starts an automation. So watching cards or when something changes. But you could do this for HubSpot, you could do this for, they've got 1,500 or 2,000 different apps. And then you can start immediately with, what could you automate with this? For example, if a card gets added in your Trello to-do list, it could be added to a Google Sheet, or it could be processed through AI, it could send an email, all this kind of good stuff. And at the bottom, you can also see some existing workflows that sometimes are fun starting places. They're usually pretty basic, but sometimes it's just fun to look at. So make.com, you can explore the apps there. So that's a little bit of an introduction. I will say that the other things that we're going to use are some Google Documents. We're going to use Buffer as our free scheduling tool. We're going to use a little bit of front-end Perplexity ChatGPT to do a little research. And then we're going to build it all in Make and then link it with the form. So why don't we get started here real quick. When you log into Make, it's free to sign up. I think you get a free couple of automations. So if this is your first time using Make, then you'll be able to do this workshop for free. If not, it's $10. Incredibly, one of the best value things on the internet, in my opinion. I literally have thousands of operations going a month with, I don't know, almost 100 automations, and we don't even ever pay more than $10, except if I make a mistake and have to use a lot more credits, then it's another $1 for another 1,000 credits. So this is an incredibly valuable tool. And also it's really fun to use. So let's take a look at what a scenario looks like. And by the way, just to give you a quick overview, yours will look simpler. We have a whole lot going on here. But the main thing that you want to use here is the scenarios. Sometimes you need to come back into connections to reconnect an account. I'll show you that all in a little while. But your scenarios, and you can have nice little folders to keep your stuff organized. And you'll be just creating a new scenario. So we're just going to create one there. And I'm going to show you before we even start what we are going to build today, just so you have it in mind. It's going to look a little complicated, but I promise it's going to be pretty fun. And part of it's even just pretty much a copy and paste part that's duplicated. So here is what it's going to look like. I know this is exciting. So this is called a scenario. These are all the modules. And it's going to basically, just to give you the run through, it's going to go from a form. This I'll show you why we're using this little purple one. I won't get into it just now. It's going to find some prompts from Google Documents. It's going to run everything through AI. It's going to go down 2 queues. So this is where you can see that these are too much the same, but the slight difference is this is going to be immediate posting and this is going to be posting to your queue. What's nice about this is you could also, by the way, have this go right to Instagram or Facebook or LinkedIn. But this allows you to do a few of these posts and add them to the queue. So if you want to do the next few days of posts, adding the buffer here rather than just immediately posting it, that's why we're doing that. So I'm going to take this. I have learned in past workshops to not try to like write out all of my prompts and things real time, because I end up misspelling it and everyone's like, you should really just have copy and pasted that stuff. So I've learned my lesson. We are going to build this from scratch. And also I did find a couple of errors while I was building this workflow, which I was able to learn because I'm using this new open form. It did cause a couple of things, which I will mention, and we might run into an error, but hopefully we don't. Now, if you remember, we started with the form, this is what it looked like, this red one. Whoops, where did that go? Hold on, this red one. But we're actually going to start with a purple one. And why are we going to do that? Well, because I want to be able to test this thing, and I don't want to have to fill out this form every time I test it. So we're going to actually just basically create what's going to be incoming, but with dummy data. So it's, first of all, when you press plus, and we should name this scenario. So I'm just going to copy and paste the other name that I have. And we're going to, like, you know me, I like to keep things organized, and we'll get into what this does, some of this stuff down at the bottom in a little bit. But when you click on this first module, we're going to say tools, we're going to set multiple variables, and variables are basically just things that can be used in the rest of the scenario. And we're going to copy and paste from my one just on a different screen here, so I can not make any spelling errors. So here we're going to just say, in fact, what we can do is, I'll just say, you know what, I'll just say this is the title. In fact, what I should do is really find an article. Let me see if I have one pulled up here. Okay, and I may even just end up using this one. I'm going to actually just use the title here. And so we're just doing this manually. Eventually, we're going to fill this in with the data that comes in from the form. But for now, I'm just going to put some manual things for testing. It's like AI businesses need to adopt AI. Now, obviously, this is going to be a lot better when we do it properly, but at least I'm going to show you how this works with this example post, and then we're going to change all those things later. Okay, the next one is the actual article, and that's what the AI is going to help us draft some stuff around. So we'll come in here and we will copy and paste this entire article. It's so nice, you can just have almost no limits of how much text you can put in there. And then we're going to have posting platforms, okay? And this is where we're gonna have, it will come in and look something like X, Facebook, LinkedIn. And then the last thing is scheduling. And we're gonna have the last one be, for testing, add to queue, because we don't want anything to go out immediately as we're testing. All right, so we've got it. And by the way, I like to rename my modules, especially as things get more complicated. This is a best practice. We're gonna just call this a relay module, because all it's gonna be doing is eventually we're gonna change all those manual things with the dynamic things from the form. Okay, great. So we got the first thing. Now, what we wanna do is we want to train the AI on our writing tone, on our blog prompt, and on even like we want to also even get our signature. And so you could, if you wanted to, put all those things in here, and that would maybe save you a few module runs like of your operations. But again, you get 10,000 with the inexpensive plan, so I'm not too worried about it. And there's a benefit to actually storing your prompts outside of this automation. So you'll see in my writing tone I have here, and I can send you the links to all these, but you can also create your writing tone. How can you do that? You can copy and paste your writing into ChatGPT and say, define my writing tone. There's other ways to do it. Some people like to actually take a blog post that they've written and add that as part of the prompt. It's like, hey, here's my writing style, like write like me. There's different ways of doing that. I have just this one. It's very simple. A couple of the things, besides being approachable and down to earth, etc., I say, avoid rarely used words, keep your language simple and direct. I could say Spartan. It's another good way to use it. That means it's like less flowery, like AI can be really flowery. Don't use exclamation marks or emojis, or I'm going to say don't use quotation marks. Did I say that already? I don't think so. Quotation marks. Exclamation. So this is where you can massage this. And so you're starting to see that the benefit of actually having the prompts not in the automation is you can actually begin to massage them over time and just come to the Google Doc, and the next time the automation runs, it will use the latest. So how do we do it? Well, we click on that plus button you saw there, and it pulls up a blank module, and I can now search for docs, and it's my Google Docs, and we're going to actually say show more, get contents of a document. You'll need to connect your Google. I have a few accounts, personal and business, but it's so simple. You just sign up like that. If you are going to be connecting multiples, you might want to label them properly. And what you could do is a simple way, but sometimes a pain, is you could say by drop down and you click on here and you'll see all your files and folders. It just takes a while if it's nested in a lot of folders. So what I like to do is the mapping. And the only thing you need to know about mapping is you need to find the file ID. And what it is it's this string of characters and digits between the two backticks. Take that in, copy and paste it in here, and you save it, and you've got your first one. So what I'd like to do is rename this to get writing tone. And now, to make sure it's working, we don't want to run this the whole thing yet. We can actually just right click on it and say run this module only, and boom. There it is, as you write. Remember, that's exactly the text content from my writing tone. Super powerful to store your prompts in something like a Google Documents, especially when things get complicated. You don't have to come back into your scenario. You just go and massage the prompts in there. Okay, so that worked. So now we're going to do another one for the blog writing prompt. So I'm going to actually just duplicate this by cloning it, putting it here. I'm going to say get blog writing prompt. Okay, and then we got to add the other one. Click on this. See, sometimes it selects the whole thing if I double click on it. Other times if it has like a dash in it, it doesn't. So just make sure you're selecting that entire string. And then let's run that just for best practice. Make sure, all right, here is the blog post instructions. This is what's coming back, all the information from the document. You'll see why that's important later. And then finally, we're going to do this signature. Oh, this is just an example of how complicated a blog post prompt can get. For every day on Razor, we have our blog that goes out. Every evening, I read a blog or a news article, and I spend a few minutes writing a introduction post, and then the AI does the rest. It creates an image for me, and we're not going to even get into that. That's more advanced, but how this automation could also cross-post onto other platforms like Medium or WordPress, Wix, whatnot. Here's the little personal thing that I write as the introduction. And then here is the thing that follows very carefully this blog post prompt writing. And it has a summary, it has why it's important, benefits, concerns, possible business use cases, and a thought-provoking question, and my signature that gets added at the bottom. So it's pretty cool, right? So it can get, just to show you, it can be pretty involved. As you train it as on your tone and on the writing style, you can get this to a place where our blogs don't even trigger AI detection anymore. It takes a while to train it. You want to sometimes say, don't ever use these words. Like you could put another module in here being like, don't ever use these words or whatever. I'll show you how you would do that in a second. But all we're going to do is clone this, get the signature, which looks like this. And this just will go to the bottom of my LinkedIn. So that one worked. You just want to make sure you get that whole thing. Rename it, get signature. Change that one little piece. And there we go. So we have got our first things. Well, we are ready to do our first AI module, everybody. Let's make sure to save it. And it's a good opportunity to talk about this bottom. Once this is ready to go, we can turn on scheduling. It's going to actually be immediate because it's going to be triggered by the form. Sometimes you want triggers to be once a day or once an hour. It can get expensive with your credits actually to use that method, because if you do once every 15 minutes, that's going to add up to, I mean, you do the math, what is that, 1,000 a month or something. So better to do things that have immediate triggers is what I'm saying. But sometimes you have to do it. But if you're going to do it, better to do it like once a day or whatnot, or once every hour. Once every 50 minutes is going to add up. Okay, save. I mean, it's still only $1 a month, not a big deal. So it depends on what you really need to do. Okay, so there's save, there's a few other things which I haven't used. There's the scenario settings, which we might get into if we have an error, but otherwise this is the most important one. This is where you can, if you've really messed up, you can choose a previous version of when you saved. And if you really think you're gonna do some experimental things and you wanna save this exact version, you can export what this is called, which is a blueprint. Then you can always import it if you really screw it up. All right, everybody, so we've got our instructions coming in, and now we are ready to do our first AI module. Here we go. We're gonna go here and click on OpenAI, and you'd think it was Message and Assistant, but it's actually Create a Completion. And what we're gonna do first is write the blog post, okay? And the way this works is, first of all, we're gonna choose a model first. We're always usually gonna use ChatGPT 4.0 latest. It's most well-rounded. They've got tons of different models. They've also got things like, images and all that kind of fun stuff. We're not going to talk about that today, but we are going to talk about how this works. So first thing we're going to do is train it. And if you remember, we've got these training things. And so before we get into user, which is actually going to be asking the AI for something, we're going to get into this developer mode and system. And we are going to get the writing tone. We're going to basically, right off the bat, as you click on this, you can come down to get writing tone. And you can see as you hover over this little element that was returned by Google Documents, you can get a preview. See, it says as you write. So you know that's the right one. Okay, cool. Now we're going to add another message, and we're going to say, this is the article. We're going to do another system. And we're going to say, this is the article I want you to train on. Click on there again. And by the way, if this gets really long, you can collapse these and then just go back to the relay module. And remember, we want the original article here. All right. And then the last thing that we need to do is the user blog post. Oops, I did the wrong one. User. And this is the blog writing instructions. So click on that. And if you remember, I want you to write a 300-word blog post. There we go. Okay. Only other thing I forgot to mention, because you will not likely have connected your OpenAI account. And I have a few, actually I just have one on this account, I guess. You want to add one. So look what's going to happen. I want to at least show you how to do this real quickly because it's different. This is different from your paid ChatGPT $20 a month account. You do need to have a little bit of credit in here. When you log in to the API platform, you're going to need to probably put in $5. Maybe you can put in less, but once you do, and I believe you do that in your settings, let's see here, billing, I think you can add credit to your balance. I got $5 in there. $5 will go a long way. I mean, honestly, we run thousands of AI automations every month and we might pay $20. So this is even a great way to use ChatGPT. Once you get good at this, you can effectively use this for often less than the actual front end. It's not always as pretty because you don't have all the features, but you can play with things right in the playground. So this can save you a little bit of money if you just need the basics, or if you just want to do some images. But what we're going to do is come back here, create our API key. You just create this, name it, make.com or whatever, come back here and paste it. I don't know if you need the organization ID anymore. They might have changed that. That's why it's kind of grayed out. If you do need it, then it's back here and it's your organization ID, okay? I don't think you even need that anymore. That's why it's not bold. So once you press the API and save, you'll get all this stuff. All right, cool, ready to go. Excuse me. Okay, everybody, next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna rename this, by the way, called Write Blog Posts. And we are going to do one more. We're gonna create the hashtags, okay? So let's do another one of these and create a completion model. And I'm going to say something pretty simple like, here we'll go down to 4.0 again. I'm going to say create, once this loads, create 5 strategic hashtags for this post. And this is going to be a user because this is a one shot. We're not going to need to train it. And then we're going to get the post, and the result is nice and conveniently, they used to have it all in the middle of some of these folders. Now they have this nice little result thing here. So as you can see, remember, just that as you're highlighting this, you can see it's pulsing. You know you're selecting the right thing. Cool. We have now created our hashtags. Now what we're going to do is create our scheduling. And by the way, if we wanted now to test this, which maybe we should, let's just see if there's any errors. And again, we don't need to worry about the form just yet because we're starting with this get variables relay module. And we don't have to turn it on. We're just going to run it manually. So let's take a look. Have a sip of water. And this is incredibly satisfying to see this as it goes. You see it's green, 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 and green. So it did, and you can click on these things to make sure the right stuff's coming in. And you can see here the result. Here's the nice blog post, which we're going to add to the scheduler later. Let's see if the hashtags worked. All right, so look at this. This is interesting. It actually did it, but it also created this kind of introduction. So I think I already put it in the writing document. Do not, and if not, I think I have it in the blog. But I definitely don't want it to, I actually, I'm going to add this to everything. Don't include any summary or context of what you've done. Just give me the plain result, the info I want. All right, and so I'm going to actually add that because sometimes OpenAI can get, I don't think I added it here. Yeah, and so I'm going to also add it to the hashtag. You see it added this stuff. Here are 5 strategic hashtags. I don't want it. I just want the hashtags. And I can also say write them in a line. So let's do that so that they're not on one on every line. So how would I do that? I would probably say create a 5 for this post, and then I'm going to say the instructions here. Make them all in line. Make them in line. Or I'll say list them in line. Don't include any summary or context of what you've done. Just give me the info I want. It doesn't really matter if you misspell a little bit. Okay, so that should work now, and I'm going to rename that make hashtags. Okay, guys, we are ready to do a little bit of scheduling. Now, remember, as on the form, it's coming in, we're going to need 3 different modules here. And if you see when I build this, we're going to just focus on this. We're going to have a path for Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter. And you'll see why that's important in a second. Well, I mean, you know why it's important right away, because if you don't check X, you don't want it to go X, right? In order to do that, we're going to use something called a router. And router you can either find in flow control, but also it's a handy tool, so we find it right here. And look, it's just split this, which is super cool. And what we're going to do is connect our buffer account. All right, so look at this buffer. Here we go. Create a status update. Now, if you don't have a buffer yet, you can create one, and it's then one click. You can basically connect a buffer. It's a scheduling tool. It looks like this, and you connect your accounts, and then you come back to make, and then you are logged into buffer. You then just add the buffer. You press a few buttons. All right, so we'll do this one first with Facebook. And so what we're going to do is we're going to, first of all, make sure that this is at the end of the queue. And I'll get to this in a second. We're going to, for the text of the update, what are we going to do, everybody? We are going to do the post introduction. Very nice. We are going to do, the next thing is going to be the blog post, which is the result. The next thing we're going to do is the hashtags, which should be fixed by the next time we do it. And then the last thing we're going to do, what is it? It's the signature. You guessed it, everybody. So here we go, text content. Last thing we want to do is we want to attach a link to this article that we're talking about, okay? And by the way, we can talk about part of this topic of this workshop was going to be generating ideas. So it's not as involved as that, but we could do a little playing with that in a moment once we finish everything. So what did we want for the last thing? We want the link, which is here, the URL. Perfect. We're ready to go. So we're going to call this Facebook. Now, we are going to also clone this, put it down here, see how it nicely connected. We actually don't need that one. We're going to call this one LinkedIn, which is going to pretty much be the same. You want to make sure you spell it right. It's pretty much the same, but it's going to be LinkedIn. Okay. And then we're going to do one more. And you can also just click on this module, and we are going to once again clone this, but it's going to be for Twitter this time. And we want to keep this here because I'll show you in a second why we need that. Well, I'll show you right now, in fact. All right, what do we know about Twitter? It's a lot less characters. You're not allowed all those characters like a full blog post. So we need to do something clever. What do we need to do? We're going to come back and fix this in a second. We'll call this X. And we need to do another AI module, everybody. Another creative completion. Here we go. And I'm going to do a two-shot thing. First one's going to be a system prompt. And I'm going to say, use the following tone. And as soon as it loads, this is like the slowest part of the whole thing. Okay, so system. I'm going to say use the following tone. And then I don't even know if I need to write that necessarily because it kind of just starts with that. But whatever, it doesn't really matter. Working with AI, the nice thing is it's flexible. Okay, the next thing is going to be the user instruction. Okay, so what's the user instruction going to be? We're going to say, just to make sure that it's got enough room for the link and the hashtags, we'll try 170. And so what I'll do is say, here's the post. So we're going to write a 170 character tweet from the following post. Here's the post, and here's the post. Boom. All right, and that should be good. But and we'll say shorten post. Okay. And now the only other thing that we need to do is fix all this stuff because we don't really want any of this. What we want is the tweet, which is going to be this result here. And we want the hashtags, which is this result. And then the same link can be here. All right, so what we can do is do that. There's one final thing, which, I'm glad I remembered. We need to remember on the form, it's going to come in with these posting platforms, and we can actually look over here how that looks. It's going to come in like this, X, Facebook, LinkedIn. So we need to filter, and that's what you can do on these branches. So the module or the router comes out here and it splits. If we didn't do anything else, no matter what it says, it's going to do all of these. But what we want to do is create a filter. You can click on this little wrench, set a filter, and then you could say, I don't even think you need to put a label here because the next module is labeled. Sometimes I'll label the filters if it's like only if there's the numbers 2 or whatever. If it's not clear, sometimes it's helpful to label the filters, and this one's pretty simple. So look at this. I'm going to say posting platforms in contains, not contains case insensitive. I'm just going to say contains, and that top one I think was Facebook, right? So now it's only going to run down this branch if posting platform contains Facebook. So if you don't click Facebook in this form, it won't run down that branch. All right, so we're going to do this one too. And we're going to say posting platforms contains LinkedIn. And by the way, if you use the capital I in LinkedIn in the form, which I believe we did, then you need to use a capital I here, unless you say case insensitive. So be aware of that. And then the last one is going to be X, okay? So posting platforms is X, contains X. It's nice to use the case sensitive. In this case, it doesn't really matter, but sometimes you use filters. Like sometimes I'll have certain filters that it's only like if I am doing a post, it's not really relevant here, but if I do something like this, once. It's very like in a subject line, all caps. I'm not going to usually write once in all caps, and so using all caps is like a trigger, potentially. And so you don't know, like it might be easier to say case insensitive, but case sensitive you can do things with that are kind of cool occasionally. So I just wanted to teach you. There's so many different ways if you're dealing with numbers or time or all sorts of things to explore. Okay. So all of that should work. I'm trusting that it is, by the way. But what we haven't done here is we haven't done the immediate. All right. And so what we're going to do is make some space for ourselves here. We're going to actually do another router. It's going to be a router that goes to a router, to two routers, in fact. So look at this. Add a router. That's another way to add it. And I can just go like this. And then you know what? Look at this. Boom. Paste this down here. Delete this one because I don't need it. Everything's getting a little messy now. Now you can see this cool little tool called Auto Align. Helps you out. All right. And then we've got to do one more thing. Another filter. And remember, on the form, we had scheduling. Our scheduling looks like... we will test this in a second, so why don't I just say... The scheduling options are immediately or add to queue. Okay, so now we are going to, first of all, save this because we've done so much great work. And remember, there's no undo button in Make, so you need to press save regularly if you're going to really do a bunch of experiments. Export, I've told you already, and you can, if you didn't do that, you can go back to one previous. All right, so remember, we have the queue and we have immediate. So why don't we turn this one into immediate right now that this is all the queue. So we go in here and this says post immediately. Okay, post immediately. Oops. And then post immediately. All right, boom. And guess what? We've done that. So those modules are all now set up. There's one more thing that we got to do, and we just want to double check how this looks. It's immediately in queue. All right, so look at this. We got to do one more set of filters, and this is going to be this is the one that I did immediate to. Yeah. Okay, so we're going to come up here, set up filter, and I'll say immediate here. This is a place where I will put that, just in case I forget what I did. And then scheduling contains... And this is where we put immediately. Make sure you spell it right. Okay. And then we'll do again down here. Set up filter, schedule. Oh, I could have clicked that. Okay. Boop, 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 boop. Schedule. And then this contains, and I think I said contains on the other one, right? I always have to double check. This one's going to contain Q. That's definitely one you got to spell right. And I did say that this one was contains. Yes. Okay, great. All right. So that is that. There's only one other thing that we need to do here. First of all, I want to tell you one quick thing. And that is all of these are pretty reliable except OpenAI. OpenAI, sometimes it goes offline and you'll get an error and it just won't continue. There's one way to solve this that can work. And that is by doing a error handler. I'm not going to get too into this, but this one is the one that I use regularly. It's called a break. And what it allows you to do is say, try for 3 times and break it up in 5-minute sections. And let's see if that works. And but there's a red dot. What does it say? Oh, it needs you to put on incomplete executions. Well, don't worry too much. This is where a bunch of settings I never use are, except this one, incomplete executions. That one is, and effectively you could put one of these breaks on all. I've seen some people that produce these for, companies, and they literally put a break on every AI module and sometimes even on other modules. You don't have to at first, but if as you're running your automations, you see that one keeps breaking, sometimes using this break, and by the way, this doesn't mean break the scenario, this means take a break. That's a little confusing. That's why I never used it at first. I'm like, why would I want to break everything? So, okay. We've done the module. I think it's working. And now what we could do here is just to make sure before we connect it to the form, why don't we run through a test? And we have this on queue, right? Okay, good. So, and we have all of our dummy data in here. So it's going to go down here and it should go down here. And we can take a sip of water while we watch this happen. It's very satisfying when this all works, and we might run into an error, and if we do, then we will fix it as we go. And it's possible that that happens, but I did practice this automation once already, so so it looks like LinkedIn didn't work sometime for some reason. Didn't get an error, but the filter didn't work. So let's first of all go into our buffer and see how this looks. Oh, AI isn't replacing expertise, it's enhancing it. There's my hashtags and the link. I think that if you actually post this, the preview should be there. I'm not sure why it's not showing here. I think once it posts, it should show the preview. If not, there might be another setting in Twitter that we need to look at. For example, in here, we might need to do a thumbnail. I'm not sure. I don't think so. I think that this should just preview. I think it's not showing in buffer. Anyways, and we'll delete that one because we don't need it. But that test worked. And then let's take a look at LinkedIn. LinkedIn, again, it should show that preview, no problem. Yeah, there it goes. And this is, oh, I think it was because I think in my dummy data, I used oh no, I did use the URL. Okay, we'll just double check, but I think that should be showing a preview. But let me go back to buffer and just delete that. At least the blog's in there with the signature and the hashtags. This is like a little funny how it's 2 lines. I think, oh, it's just because I think in my signature. See, now I can just go like this, and it will be maybe look a little nicer. So that's another nice thing about working in those documents. All right, what was I doing? Oh, I was deleting this from buffer. Okay. No. Discard and delete. Okay. All right, so let's see why this didn't come here. And you can click on this, and it says posting platform didn't have LinkedIn. Let's see what happened. Aha! Lowercase I. There you go. So now that should work. So I don't think I need to test it again. I will just like look here, make sure the link is the original article URL. So this should work. You know, it did link to it, and this one same. Yeah, okay, well, let's just try it again and see, and you know, we can figure that out. But last time I tested it, it should work. So I think it's just something up with buffer. All right, everybody, now time to put the entire system together. Oops. Okay, and this is and then we'll also have to turn this on in a second. So right now, this isn't going to do anything because it's actually, if we put this on every 15 minutes, it's going to do the exact same post. What we need to do is incorporate our form here. And the way we do that is by going to here. And first we start actually in here, and we are adding a module. It's called a webhook. Don't worry about it. It's not too crazy. All it means is that we're going to put this webhook on a form, and I'll use this title. And the webhook, the form, once it's done, is going to send data to the webhook, and make.com's webhook is just waiting for that information. So I'll call this, you know, the temp one, because I think I already created. Actually, I'll just call this one, final, because I've done this once before. I want to make sure I know which one that I'm using. Boom, save. And look at this, copy address to clipboard. And now I can come into here and say integrations, webhook, and I think I want to also just delete, these were test ones, so you won't have these. I'm just going to delete them just to make sure nothing weird's happening. And then I'm going to have my new webhook. And look, it looks a little bit just like a website, but that's where it's sending the data. Okay, now we are ready to do a view form. It's basically waiting for this first test data. So let's just do that. And we don't have to we can just go like this. Test. This probably we actually have to do a real link. This, and then we'll just do this. Press submit, and look, this is very satisfying. This now should go green in 1 moment. There it goes, successfully determined. Okay, we're not quite there yet. We need to drag this little clock up to here, and this is now going to be the start of the automation. And we've got one last thing to do before we finish this, and that is to remap. First of all, we can click on clean up, and then we can move this back. I don't know why it always throws the error handlers all far away. We need to we need to relay the information. Okay, I think there's just one complex thing here that I found in my testing that I'll tell you when we get to it. But look at this post title. This one's the introduction. This is the article URL. Original article. I'm going to just show you that last one later. This one is the scheduling. All right, so this is kind of interesting. This is different than I think it was in Jotform. This is actually, this little arrow means it's an array. And so what I noticed is if I just click on this, unfortunately, all it does is it just chooses the first one in the array, which is X, and it only ever goes to X. So we need to use a little bit of an array function here. I don't want you to get too concerned, but it is a good opportunity to talk about these other sections here. Like I say, the star is all the things that's happened previously. There's nothing previous here because it's the first module. But if you're over here, it will show all the previous things. AI, I don't even, funnily enough, I don't even know what the heck that is. It'd be fun to try sometime. This is kind of like sort of, I would say, functional. Oh, it's called general functions. And this is where you can do if statements. If something equals this, then do this, all that kind of good stuff. Here's some math statements, like if you need to get random numbers or round things up or all that kind of stuff, or add or subtract. There's various things. And what's nice about this is as you hover over it, it tells you, and some of them are more complicated than others. Let's show you look at this. This is length. It will tell you the length of that word. Lowercase, it'll turn anything into lowercase. Capitalized. So it tells you kind of what it's looking for. You also have some date ones, which are good. You can add minutes. You can format the date. So the dates, typically how things come in are like really ugly. So if you choose now, it's really ugly. So if you want to format the date, you can go watch a video on how to format dates in make.com. It's plenty of YouTube University is amazing for Make, by the way. What we're going to do is this last one. I don't even know what this one is. This one's something that I haven't even used. Arrays, once in a while I have to use it. In this case, we have to use it because it needs to flatten that array into a text string. And so that's what this join does. So now we can go into join and we can click on this and we're going to say between each, put a comma and a space. By the way, how did I know to do that? Is because over here under join, it shows me array and then separator. Array, colon, separator. So array, colon, separator, comma, and space. All right, save, and then we are good to go. Post immediately or act immediately. It's activate scenario. Bam, we are ready. We're going to zoom out back to the map. We're going to come over here. We're going to launch a new form. Now it's a great opportunity to do a little research. Okay, so I could come to ChatGPT, and I could say like I could come up with maybe some post ideas here. That's one way I could do it. I could say, also and let's do a test. In this case, let's just do this. What's the latest news in the AI for business space? Okay. And I'll also do perplexity because I like perplexity. We've actually even already got an article pulled up, but I did promise to do a little brainstorm time. So ChatGPT has these links now, which is nice. So that they are connected real time to the web. So you could look at this and maybe find an interesting link to post here. Similarly over here, this might have some separate ones. You could get more specific, right? You can say, tell me more about how about more practical guides to incorporating business AI into business, something like that. It might give me some more things. I kind of got this cool one already, which is how is your company adapting to AI? So let's just use that and not waste too much time. I want to save some time for Q&A here in a second, and hopefully there's not any errors. Okay, so we'll go over to our form. I think that was the latest form, view form. I'll just do it again, just in case. Okay, post title. So let's do it. Let's go like this. First, I'm going to get this stuff in there. Copy. This is the original article URL right here. Post introduction. We're going to put it on all the platforms. We're going to say add to queue because we're just doing this for testing. Title. Well, listen, I'm going to go take this and I'm going to go over to, this is where ChatGPT could be helpful and be to say like, give me 3 provocative titles. So I could say I'm writing a summary blog post about the following article. Give me 3 provocative titles I could use. Okay, and let's just see. We're not going to spend too much time on this, but let's just say it would take this, right? Okay, cool. Now we go back to our form. That's the title. And I'm just going to say something pretty standard here and say like, if your business is not yet incorporating AI, then now's the time. Those that are, those businesses that are the ones that will succeed. Okay, great. So now let's submit this bad boy and hopefully everything works right. All right, great. So we got it. And we can check these things as we go. Let's see. Good. The posting platforms did come in properly. Before, when I did it without that array, it had said, it just said X. So I'm really glad I spent a little time testing this workshop out before with this new tool. So look at this, everybody. It came down the schedule one. It did all its things. It went to all the proper platforms. You can click on this and see, yeah, okay, yeah, that it did include Facebook. So all that stuff, very, very cool. Let's look at the result. Here we go. I still think that this should show a preview when it posts. I'm not entirely sure if there was something else that we need to. I do have one other crazy automation here that I will just reference in case that there was something that I did miss here. I might have missed something, so let's take a look. I know things can get pretty crazy. Here's the Twitter. I'm gonna go down to the actual LinkedIn. Let's see, I have link to an image thumbnail. Oh, that's interesting. Thumbnails maybe what it needs. I think that it should still post even without. This is if I wanted a custom thumbnail, which I don't want. I want to actually link to the post. However, that said, if it does need a thumbnail, that would require a little bit more. See, it looks fine here. So I think it's just something to do with the first preview. So worth trying. Like now when I save it, I don't think you'd have to do that every time. I think it should do it automatically. I think it's just the way that it got loaded. Okay, so all that to say, we are going back to here. We are saving this and we are coming back to here. Is there anything else? All I'll say is from here, there is so much potential to do crazy things with this automation. This can be the basis for expanding massively. So some of the things that we do, we've actually just launched a agent called Agent Auto, this fun little robot, which I'll send in the follow-up email along with the recording. This is a tool entirely that we actually are just beginning to launch. It's early access in case you are a content creator, wants to get your voice out there, more of a thought leader. This is going to be a very powerful tool that will have some fun free features, like some of these things that we've been doing in my workshops, but also a lot of very powerful tools. Some of the tools that we use this exact make.com automation for are things like Instagram graphic generators, video processors, social media scrapers for ideas or even to repurpose content, very elaborate auto posters like I was just showing you. That one, it really does a lot of things more than what we did today. It's like more like 150 of these little modules. Custom thumbnail makers, auto newsletters, podcast poster, voice cloner, avatar scripter. These are incredibly fun things to check out. So if you would like to talk about those things, you can head over to razor.co. I love talking about this stuff. I believe that technology should work for us and not the other way around. So if you are excited about that, if you work with your team, with your agency, with a solopreneur. There's so many amazing ways that you can use these tools. And in fact, like you can also, oops, not that one. You can also think about this. What is the point of all these automations? Well, the point, like I said, is to get the technology to work for us, but also it's to save us money and to make us money. So that's why we have also a little handy ROI calculator on Otto's page. And this is an idea to help you understand how automations can benefit you or the organization. Okay, I spend even, like, let's say 8 hours a week, 1 hour a day, or I'll say, okay, 1 hour a day on something. My rate is $100 an hour. And then I could say, when we have a meeting, I could be like, you know what, I think we could at least triple that, or maybe more. Some automations I've gotten up to 20 plus the return on the workflow multiplier. But say that you even have 5 times as fast, which is very reasonable. Say you have, like, you do something for 10 hours a week and $100 an hour. So your weekly budget for this activity is $1,000. Well, we could probably bring that down to $200 of your time, you or your team's time. So then if this automation costs a couple of grand, well, guess what? You're going to pay it off within a month. I mean, sometimes they cost more, sometimes the margin's less, whatever it is. The point being, this is a good way to help you understand your ROI. So everybody, that was the workshop. I'm really glad it worked. We didn't get into too many errors, except a couple of little things. There are a whole lot more things. So if you go down this rabbit hole of Make, and you get stuck, if we need to hop on a consulting call or something like that, you are more than welcome to reach out. If you're interested in talking about other Razor services, whether that's like meeting summarizers or project management solutions, or what we're now doing with Agent Auto, also feel free to get in touch. It's been a real pleasure, and I will now open it up to Q&A.